There's a lot to feel great about being Australian, like our spirit of mateship and making the most of the many opportunities we're given. We're known for our courage and resilience and our passion. Most importantly, we believe in the idea of a fair go. Not just having one, but also giving one in return. We are vibrant and distinct as one of the most diverse societies in the world. While our stories may begin in different places, we're bonded by a common future we will create together. So look around. It's easy to find inspiration to participate in your Australian citizenship. That means getting out there, being part of the community, and helping to create a sense of belonging. When every single one of us are just that little bit inspired to get involved, together as Australians, we can be truly inspiring.
Welcome to another of our Lunch with Leaders online events. My name is Morgan Lewis, and as CEO at Auspire, Australia Day Council in WA, it's my pleasure to be the MC for today's event. So today we have people joining us from all over the country. I am in Canberra, which is Ngunnawal country. The Ngunnawal people are the traditional custodians of the Canberra region, and they have had a continual cultural, spiritual and historical connection with this area for thousands and thousands of years. And they have met and gathered on this land for 60,000 years, well before us. And I take this opportunity to pay my respect to the Ngunnawal elders, past and present, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, especially those of you who may be joining us online today. I do want to also take this opportunity to acknowledge the Australian of the Year Awards National Diversity and Inclusion Partner, Chevron Australia, for your support of the Australian of the Year Awards, and of course events such as this that we provide, and they're a platform for our recipients to share their stories and to inspire others. Now, before we get started with all of the exciting stuff, I do want to do a little bit of online housekeeping. So we have muted everyone's microphones. So if you do need to contact us at any time during the presentation, please use the chat function, and we'll be using that a little later on for questions. Also, a member of our team can assist if you post any troubleshooting in that chat function. We would also like to recommend that, because we have so many of you online today, if you are comfortable to turn off your cameras, that's really great, because it will help us with the bandwidth and make sure that we have a nice, seamless broadcast of today's session. Now, finally, we have enabled closed captioning to assist with accessibility for those that require it. And also we will be recording the session, which will be available on our YouTube channel after the event. That's about it for housekeeping. So we're pretty much ready to go. I am absolutely thrilled today that we will be speaking with the very fabulous Amar Singh, founders of Turbans for Australia and the 2023 Australian of the Year Award recipient in the category Australia's Local Hero. Now, it's not a coincidence that our event today coincides during Harmony Week in Western Australia, and in fact, Harmony Week nationally now, which of course aims to celebrate our wonderful, diverse and vibrant multicultural society and reflect on what it means to be Australian. Today is also the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and it's a reminder that we all have a role to play in calling out racism. So of course, in addition to celebrating Harmony Week and our collective achievements towards a socially and culturally inclusive society, today also asks Australians to reflect on how we can improve our country, increase the sense of belonging for every member of every community. Harmony Week is about acknowledging that everyone belongs and harnessing the opportunities our multiculturalism provides. And Amar's story is a fantastic example of this in action. And so for those of you who may not have heard Amar's story, we're going to talk to him in a minute. Amar founded Turbans for Australia back in 2015. It's a charity that helps Australians in times of need, specialising in providing emergency goods to people in need regardless of their race, their religion or their ethnicity. from food and grocery hampers to those experiencing food insecurity, to hay for farmers experiencing drought, from survival supplies to flood and cyclone and bushfire victims, care hampers for those that were isolated and vulnerable during COVID-19 lockdowns. As a baptised Sikh who wears a turban and grows a beard, Amar has faced extreme racism. But rather than let it beat him, he was determined to use it as an opportunity to demonstrate the goodness of his Sikh culture and the values of equality, respect, and service to humanity. And from those early days as a maligned charity worker, now Amar's journey is a tremendous example of breaking down racial barriers and moving from being an outsider to a community builder, recognised on the world stage as 2023 Australian of the Year, Australia's local hero. So Amar, it's so great to see you again. I'm very, very much looking forward to our chat today.
Yeah, I'm too, mate. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Now, before we jump into the conversation, let's take a look back at that moment on the eve of Australia Day when you accepted your award from the Prime Minister in front of a huge live audience and streamed to thousands of people watching from around the world.
Australia's local hero for 2023 is Amar Singh.
G'day Australia, I love you all. I'm not supposed to be here, by the way. It doesn't feel real. I'm a man who fought to find his place in Australia against lonely and isolation times, coming to a new country with a suitcase as a 15-year-old, and here am I today. God damn it. I wanted to play a role in bringing our communities together, make it a more harmonious place. I wanted to help build bridges, and the benchmark of Australianness, there is none, because we're all equal. We all come from different lands, from our wonderful First Nation people to our newest migrants. We're all equal, all one. We're a rich country with a diverse nation, wonderful land, wonderful food. We're a better and stronger nation if we include and support one another. This was and always will be Aboriginal land. And I'll leave you here today with words from a famous song by John Lennon. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us and the world will be as one. Thank you.
Wow, congratulations again. It probably feels like a lifetime ago. How did that moment change things for you? Or is it just business as usual at Turbans for Australia?
Well, it is business as usual, but it has changed a lot of things for me. And I still get goosebumps watching that video, because that presentation ceremony, the 5 or 6 days we had in Canberra, dealing with all those amazing leaders from right across the country, it was absolutely amazing. Something you can't put in words. I'm still, when I think of that time, I can still feel energized, and it was absolutely amazing. But we're here packing hampers, giving away food, traveling up to Lismore, and that's just Turbans.
So it filled your bucket, but constantly you're looking for other opportunities to fill that bucket. Of course, doing the work that you do every day, day in, day out, is what does that for you. So the work that you're doing, so you've recently just come back from Lismore, did you say? You've been up there, obviously the floods that are happening at the moment.
That's right. So Lismore, up northern New South Wales, is just shy of the Queensland border. It was devastated with floods about 12 months ago, and people are still living from the aftershock, recovering from those disasters, and it's absolutely tragic. When we went there, I could see in the main library of the city in Lismore, the water was up to the second story halfway. There was watermarks on the glass, and standing on the floor, you think, oh my God, that's where it was. Absolutely breaks your heart. Go, what did people lose here? Everything. And that's scary.
Absolutely. The comment that you made in your acceptance speech, and you and I spoke a little when we were together in Canberra about when you first arrived in Australia, and it was for you, it was this big opportunity, for this land of opportunity. But you did talk about a lot of discrimination that you personally faced. You know, you're wearing your turban and your beard as an adult, and it's every single day you are saying, this is who I am, but you were attacked. Tell us a little bit about that, and what did you do to turn that around, which I think is what led you to starting up Turbans for Australia. Is that right?
That's pretty much spot on. I went through a fair bit of racism and ignorant comments from people. And those are the feelings that I think will resonate with many people in the Zoom here today who come from an ethnic background who call Australia home now. That we always are treated, you know, I mean, not always, sometimes are treated by many in the community as second-class citizens and thinking that they can have a go at somebody just because they're not fluent in English. Or when somebody looks at us, they think, oh, I can have a joke at this person, but of course they can't. You know, we should all be treated equal. And that was really scary for me because constantly getting hammered by comments and saying, you know, go back home. So this is home. So it made me realize that what do we do to change these people's attitude, change their mindset? Because I don't want our children growing up in this land and they've been told, go back home. I mean, if you look at a room full of Australians, you'll have people from all continents and all parts of the world of all faiths. And that's what makes this country great. And we are damn proud of it. It's our food, our culture, our ethnicities, and the diversity we bring. So for me, starting Turbans for Australia was a way to give back to a local society and something to make my own, to take ownership of the land. You know, we come here and then you think, I'm lost. This is not my country. At one stage, migrants in the early migration process are in denial. They think they're just here to make a living and home is somewhere over there. But over time you go, this is home. I've built a life here now, but why am I not still being accepted? So through volunteering and getting involved in community, I wanted to change that, to say, hey, when you look at somebody who might not look as your average Australian that you think are, it's okay. They're just Australians. They're human beings that make this country great.
Mm. You speak a lot about your Sikh culture and the fact that Sikhism is a very giving, a very selfless culture. And I'd like to understand a little bit more about that and if that's really what drives you, obviously apart from your very profound personal sense of social justice. That Sikh cultural tenet, that selflessness, that service to community, I think it's called seva or seva in your culture.
Yes, seva.
Seva. Can talk to us about that. Explain about that, because I think this is so fascinating and we can all probably take a bit of a leaf out of your book.
Definitely. Look, I think to be honest, I quite frankly stole the Sikh principle and applied it in real life. And look where it's got us. And I think I want to encourage every person from faith communities, from multicultural communities to try, make this place better. Because, you know, until you take ownership of this land, I keep repeating this word because it's very important. I don't want somebody who comes to Australia, calls it their home, to think this is not my home. This is your home. Make a change, make it better, get involved. For me, as a person of Sikh faith, visually identify my long flowing beard and my turban that I tie every morning. I can't get away from it. I'm Amar, but I'm also a Sikh. So when I looked at our principles of seva, which is selfless service to others, in many times we migrants are at fault as well. Let's acknowledge. We apply for that service attitude, the volunteering within our own community. Oh, let's help our new migrants, which is perfectly great. It's much needed. But I think we have to apply part of that to a wider society as well. Because remember, we are part of the wider society. We are Australians. So for us, when I started applying it, it worked wonders. For us turning up, doing a fundraiser for the drought in Martin Place, Sydney, the heart of Sydney. Many times people asked, so this drought, is it in India? So no, it's right here in our backyard in New South Wales. People are like, wow, this is scary. And sometimes people are oblivious to the fact that our country, our state, our cities go through so much trauma, and our regional Australians, which I'm very passionate about. So again, I wanted to bring in the principle of seva, selfless service and volunteer work to bring it all together and package it in a little name that we just thought of, random Turbans for Australia, because I wanted the turban to be spoken about. And that's how it all started.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I want to touch on some of those more difficult times that as a country we have been through recently. The COVID-19 pandemic springs to mind, and I know you guys were really, really busy during that time. Thankfully, it's largely behind us now. But tell us some of the challenges you faced during that period, particularly in the States where lockdowns were very, very long and drawn out, and getting your service packages, your support packages to those communities. What were some of the challenges you faced, and how did you get around those challenges?
It was a very scary time because, unlike the bushfires and the floods, you can't see or smell anything. It was just something in the air. So every time you left home, think, am I going to get it today? How do I just do what I need to do to help people and come back home safe to my kids and family? Because I've only got a young family. My little one was only 2 years old then. So it was really scary for me. I'll come home and they want to come and hug you. Go, no, I need to go straight into the shower, put my clothes in the laundry and so forth. We had a little process in place, but it was still very scary. And I think for me personally, I just looked at it and go, I still have a house to go back to. I still have food on the table, but there are many who are struggling. What do we do to them, for them? The warehouse you see behind me, we got it just a couple of weeks before the lockdown hit. Previously, we were working at council's community centres, which were all like for community performances and so forth. They had timber floors. They were like not proper accessible for pallets and, those blue things you see at the back of me. So we thought we'll get a warehouse because it'll give us more room to do what we need to do. And then come hit the lockdown. Everyone we were serving in the first lockdown came back to us, go, we need hampers. They're like, oh, but we're supposed to build a kitchen. And a year and a half on, where these orange chairs are, from there all the way to the back wall is going to be our commercial kitchen. That is going to start in a couple of weeks' time. But it's been absolutely crazy that we got pushed into this. And of course, the challenges were there. Challenge of 5 care limits. Half of Sydney was divided. We had lockdown LGAs that couldn't go. People couldn't work. And we had volunteers who will leave, and I had to give them a written authority or send them a text to say, if somebody pulls you over, to say, you're going here, the police can talk to me. And then the local councils kicked into action. That was really fantastic. They were doing weekly meetings with us where all the charities would get together and talk about their issues, the communities that were facing. So it all sort of really worked in sync. And I saw the best of human nature. I saw the best of everyone, from our local councils here to people who supported us, people who saw some media say, hey, mate, I just wanted to say thank you. So that is the power that kept us going. But challenges were there. They felt very small in front of the people's passion and their support and their pats on our back. It was just like, let's just rock through. Our community needs that, our society needs that, and we were just here packing hampers like crazy.
Well, look, getting enough of the hampers out would have been one challenge, but just even, as you said, getting through those border patrols so that you could actually get into those communities, and what sort of authority and border crossings did you have to apply for and secure? I mean, all of that stuff that happens in the background that we forget about now. But it was amazing how you just, everything that you was hit with, you were able to overcome it with a new solution. So that kind of leads me to my next question, is that the work that you're doing is very responsive to the community's needs at the time. So, you spoke about the Lismore floods. You've worked in those bushfired impacted areas of the South Coast. You've been helping the devastation through where Cyclone Marcia went through in Queensland. You can't plan for when those events happen. So what did you discover about yourself and the way that you organised the Turbans for Australia to be prepared for when those things happen? And then what do you see when you get there? And was it what you prepared for?
Look, you can't really prepare for a disaster because we can't dictate our terms to a disaster. Say, hey, can you come back on Friday? I'm busy on Thursday, right? So we have to play along with what they throw at us. And sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's bushfires. I remember in the bushfires campaign, having a police escort lead our trucks into the place because they had to shut off parts of highway because the winds could change all of a sudden and they could take the whole road away. There were signs that were melted. You drive through a small town and the whole CBD will look like a war zone, a scene out of a horror movie where everything's burned down. Think, oh my gosh, this is somebody's business right here or somebody's house right there. What are they doing now? But when you turn up to one of the evacuation centers and you meet some of those wonderful, smiling, glorious country people, offer you a cup of tea, say, thank you for coming to our town. And, and somebody will say, look, I lost my house. And I just wanted to come and say, thank you for you guys turning up and go, oh, what I'm doing is so little. These guys have lost everything. And yet they're here serving their community. Like we saw a whole army of, Lions and Rotaries running around manning those things. We turn up in the truck, they go, okay, here we go. We're here to, he'll give you a hand, unload. It was absolutely amazing. But I think the human nature kicks in. When you see those disasters and you see how much other people have suffered, it makes you thank God, your society, your family, to say, look, I still have a good home to go to, but what can I do to keep helping this community, let them rebuild at their own pace? And one thing we do is we always get in touch with local partners. So when disasters hit, we find out local partners, ring the councils, ring the SES, and offload our donations to them, because it's not about reinventing the wheel when it comes to charity, in my opinion. Find the local people who know the local community, that John needs this and Jackie needs that, give it to them, and that's it, and you walk away. And that way they feel empowered because they already know their town, and it's the best way to work.
It's true what you were saying about our different communities, and particularly our regional communities in Australia. It's often it takes those times of absolute hardship and crisis and trauma. The communities seem to just come together in force to get behind and to support. You really do see that. And of course, you're a conduit to making sure that happens and adding additional support. So it is amazing to hear some of the stuff that you've been doing over the last 5 years or 6 years now since you founded this organisation. I've got a few more questions that I want to ask you that I've got here, but I do want to flag that everyone that's online participating today, we're going to have plenty of time for questions from the audience. So please do think about what you would like to ask Amar and pop it in the chat, and we'll start to curate some of those, and I can start asking them on your behalf. So please do have a think about that. Amar, as well as helping those in need, Turbans for Australia also is very active in its promotion of multiculturalism and interfaith dialogue. And I know it is in an effort to stop racism, and I think it's fantastic, some of the work that you're doing in that space. How much progress have you made? And how far do you think we have to go as a country? And honestly, be honest.
Look, I'm always honest. I'm actually known to be brutally honest. I can't show
It's your favourite saying.
But I think as a country, we have come a long way, but we got a bit to go. And that is what my mission is. So for my kids growing up today, my son who's 10, he might choose to be a practicing Sikh, have a beard and a turban. I don't want him to be judged for his look, or anybody wearing a hijab or a kappa practice their faith, or anybody that practices a faith or likes to dress in a way they want to. I don't want them to be judged. But again, I think what we started with multicultural events was another way of us giving back, because we're not just a one-dimensional charity to say, here we are with goodies and away we go. Because as a person, I wanted to make change, make new friends. So we actually do an event called Turban Time when we go out to multicultural festivals, or we organize some of our own, and we actually tie turbans on people as a token of our friendship. Because when I'm in your personal space, tying a turban, most people will go, Amar, so what happens when you go home? Do you take the turban off? What do you do at night? That's the sort of things I want people asking. Again, if you don't ask, you don't know. And yet people may have worked with somebody who wears a turban, but they're uncomfortable. They don't want to offend somebody in asking that question. And it's not rude. And on the flip side, I get feed from my community that, oh, this random person just came up to me and started talking about turbans and Sikhs. And they said, oh, they had this turban tied. So it's also a conversation starter. Again, we get people from two poles apart, two different spectrums in the society. If they can find common ground and come together, job is done. And that's what it is. Engage in each other, engage in your community, get to know your neighbors. So I think the little work we're trying to do in this multicultural sort of sector is working, and it's making a lot of new friends.
I've got a question from Julie, and it's the perfect time to ask. Julie would like to know, what is the significance of the turban? Why a turban? Can you talk to us about that?
Definitely. So for Sikhs, I do have long hair, which is probably up to my shoulder. Sikhs tie their hair, and for us, hair is not a sign of laziness. We actually comb and clean our hair twice a day. So that's one part of Sikhism. But the turban is our spiritual crown. So I have long hair under the turban. I keep it nice and wrapped. Many Sikh women choose to wear a turban as well. So again, they want to look good. As you might have known from my last name, Singh. And I'm thinking many people here would think, oh, Singh, I work with a Singh. I know a Singh. Is he Amar's cousin? No, Singh is just a very common last name in Sikhs because our Guru wanted to create equality back in the days. So Singh means lion. And the name Kaur, I think we have one Kaur in our gathering here today as well, means princess. Because, you know, back in the Indian society, back in those days, there was a lot of discrimination based on caste, color, your hierarchy in society. And gurus, our 10th guru said, I want to make everyone equal. And turban, again, was a sign of your spirituality, but also hierarchy. He challenged the Mughals back in those days to say any common person can wear a headwear as a chief. So a turban for us is a spiritual crown, but also one that makes us look pretty. Come on.
Well, I have to say, I was so impressed in Canberra when I had the very good fortune of being there with you. You colour coordinated your wardrobe daily with your turban, as well as your son and your wife. It was beautiful. That was part of you also celebrating your Sikhism to the whole of Australia, obviously, through that Australian of the Year Awards process. So I actually found it fascinating. In fact, I was very, very in awe of you and your family and how you pulled it all together. It was wonderful. I have a couple more questions, and then we're going to throw to the chat. So keep them coming, people. As a Australian, what are some of your more memorable experiences since migrating to Australia that have helped you feel particularly welcomed, valued, that real sense of belonging to something bigger, which is our national identity here? Tell us about what made you feel really welcome.
I think what really made me feel welcome is when I started feeling part of the society. If you go to a park and you see some rubbish there, you pick it up, you feel good about yourself. In the society, it's the same thing. If you see an issue, you try your best to fix it or try to mend it. So it's better for everyone else. It will make you feel good about yourself. And, you know, as migrants, one thing I've said in a couple of my interviews as well, the town that we first land is our village in Australia. So you always feel that soft spot, you know, drive past that to go, oh, that's the name of the town, you know, I first landed in. Again, that's your connection to Australia. But for me, volunteering work has been the foundation. From early days in my school, because I started school in Australia from year 10, I got involved in volunteering for the Red Cross, the NRMA Care Flight, and then I went to volunteer Sydney 2000 Olympics. That was the best time ever. So for me, volunteering, meeting new people, and seeing the nice side of society. If I hadn't seen that, maybe I would have just built my wall up, say, look, people are racist, they can't be fixed. But I saw a lot more people who were nice, welcoming. You know, they'll come and give you a nice warm hug and go, you know, let's work together. So I thought, let's find more of these people. And how do you find them? By getting involved in community and going out there having fun.
Absolutely. Looking back on your journey, what advice would you give your 15-year-old self or your 10-year-old self, I think, when you arrived in Australia? Looking back now, what advice would you give yourself when you arrived simply with that suitcase?
I think I wouldn't change much of my life. I'm actually grateful for every experience I've had, negative and positive, because that's what shaped my dough in life. You know, every time you put your hand into the dough, it actually shapes it. So that's how I see myself. Every opportunity I've had or every trouble that's been thrown at me from life, I've actually turned it around and go, what can I learn from this? And that's how it should be life. Stay positive and look at what can you do better. How can you change that thing around to make it better for yourself, not just yourself or your family, but for others? Because I wasn't the only Sikh who turned up in Australia. There were, you know, hundreds before me, and there'll be thousands after me. But how do we create a society that's unified across all spectrums and we accept and acknowledge each other?
Some say you're a dreamer, but we're sure you're not the only one. What is that vision that you have for an Australian identity that both today's and future generations would be proud of?
For me, it's simple. Just be human. No matter if you're a faith community, if you're a multicultural community, if you're just an average Aussie that just loves their pie and beer, let's just all get along. Come on, guys, there's plenty of resources. We've got a wealth of nation here, such a beautiful land from our Aboriginal culture. There's so much stucco to go through. Let's just get it all going. There's so much culture to learn about. I mean, if we look at our Aboriginal history, we've only touched, the very small side of the pie. There's so much left in it. So let's get to learn about our cultures. One thing that I really love about Turbans and working with our different volunteers here is when we have a feed, have tabbouleh with naan bread, you'll have crackers with curry. It's absolutely cosmopolitan the way the food works, and that's the beauty of our country, our society. It's absolutely amazing. We had the ADF here and we loved feeding them in the lockdown because they were here packing hampers, and that was my way of saying thank you to the ADF for serving our community, and they quite enjoyed it. So again, I think if we find positives in life, we can make this whole place better, because sometimes people do shut off and go, I'm going to go hide back somewhere, and you shouldn't do that.
I've got some questions from our participants in the audience. So I'm going to start throwing to those now. So while I'm reading, so forgive me if I'm looking away. We have a question from Gail. She'd like to know about how far wide or far-reaching is Turbans for Australia. We know that you're on the East Coast, but have you got plans to come to WA and to up the top to the Territory?
Definitely. Hi, Gail. We have been to WA before. We've done the T20 Women's World Cup. We were part of the multicultural team there, putting on an Indian dance performance called Bhangra from my state of Punjab. Turbanting as well at the Waka. Again, that's a small thing we did before COVID, because COVID just made us so busy. So being part of multicultural events and festivals, if you're having a big festival, reach out to me. I'll arrange some people, or even if I'm free, I might turn up, because that's what I want to do, is connect to people. Find this wonderful souls in our society, have a selfie with them, have a laugh, have a giggle, and what can go wrong?
I love that you'll say, and I'll get some people lined up, but hey, if I'm free, I'll rock up. I don't think you're going to have much free time in the next 12 months, but maybe once this year sort of calms down a bit for you. All right, another question. This one's from Sandra. You talk a lot about Aboriginal culture, and we look back to when you received your award for the Prime Minister. You were wearing a First Nations scarf in the colours of the Aboriginal flag. What and how do you connect? What do you connect with, and how do you connect with Aboriginal culture?
I think I would be totally honest. I don't know a lot about, or I should say I'm not an expert in Aboriginal culture, but for me, it was a simple notion. When I decided to wear the scarf was, how do I show respect to my First Nations people? In fact, that scarf was borrowed from one of the board members in the National Australia Council. I saw
Robert Isaacs.
Yes, I saw him wearing it. I was like, I need that scarf. What scarf? Oh, I'm going to wear it tonight. If I go up on the stage, receive an award, I want to be wearing that to show solidarity. And, he gave me a nice big hug. Oh, thank you. I'll bring it, and he did. And happened to be, that was the colors of the turban already decided. So I think it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Right. Because we already went for 2 days of planning, matching every dress with turbans and this and this and this. So it worked out really beautifully. And I actually loved that photo from all of the photos that we took at Australia Day. It was just really nice.
Yeah, nailed it. I'd say nailed it. I'll tell Dr. Robert Isaacs that you mentioned that in front of this audience today.
I actually need another replica of that scarf so I can start wearing it, because people want to see me in that scarf more.
Yeah, okay. We'll put the order in.
That's it.
Now, we do have a question from Jennifer. Jen wants to know, Jennifer lives in regional WA, and she would like to know, how do we encourage migration to our regional towns and our regional centres? How can we do that? How can we encourage that?
Thank you, Jennifer. Wonderful question. I think regional Australia is a place where I wish I could live. I would just go there and get lost. It's just absolutely amazing. You live in a small town, have all the fun. It's so nice. You get in that, drive through a town, the vibe is different, the atmosphere is different. But again, I think it will take a little bit more time, because as migrants, one thing I want to say on behalf of, I think, many migrants, is we want to teach our young kids language. And when people move into regional, even out of Sydney, they find it very hard to teach their kids the language. And place of worship is another important thing, because when you come from any home, it's like I speak to so many Aussies who lived in other countries, and they go, yeah, when we meet in the US or UK or wherever, all the expats get together and have a bit of laugh. That's just human nature for everyone to get together from the same country, same culture, maybe over a game of rugby or footy, whatever they want to watch. Again, I think if we can develop enough infrastructure, migrants are probably more suited for a life in the regional areas, because many of them come from vast lands. Often many people complain to me that I'm living in a unit apartment and I come from a big house. So they're not used to it. I think sooner or later, we will come around to the nation where our regional towns are bigger and a lot better, and people will start moving freely to them. Again, it's a beautiful place of Australia, I think.
I think we need those senses of community, and our regional towns do have a very strong sense of community. So it's a good fit for everybody to consider the regions. And I think what you're saying is absolutely spot on. I do have a question here now from Angela. Angela said, if a non-Sikh wishes to learn more about the religion and visit a Sikh temple, what could they expect to experience?
It's pretty simple. I'll share a little story before I answer that question. I had a friend of mine from Victoria who got in touch with me through social media who wanted to visit the temple. So he lived in regional Victoria near Shepparton. I said, yeah, you can go to the temple, you can go in there, have a tour. And being a country Aussie bloke, he just took a 6-pack. And people were like, oh my God, you don't bring a beer to the temple, right? So it's a funny side of the story. But again, I think that was his gesture. Eventually he said, I'm friends with Amar, and somebody got on the phone to me and explained to us, look, this is just a person visiting. But to answer the question, you can go to a Sikh temple on any Saturday or Sunday and just go to just find anybody in there, one of the committee members or the priest, to say, I'm here to visit. All you have to do is take your shoes off as a mark of respect when you go in the dining hall and the prayer hall. Cover your head. You don't have to tie a turban. You can tie a small bandana, and you can get to see around. Usually some of the really young kids are really good at this. They'll show you around and tell you what's going on with the service, and it's open for everyone. Many of the temples around Australia have open days as well, where they actually welcome community, and that's another way of learning. And you'll get a feed afterwards, and you'll see how the community kitchen work. Again, the sense of savor. Those kitchens will work on a bare minimum staff. Everyone cooks, cleans, and puts on the service together. So that's our service, or the notion of service in our community.
I think it's wonderful to hear that it's everyone is welcome, and I think we do a lot of work in that space of capacity building around different cultures and awareness of different cultures, and particularly Aboriginal culture and awareness training. We have some amazing Aboriginal leaders that deliver that for us, and every session I learn so much more, even though I've sat through the session half a dozen times now in the last couple of years. But what continues to come through that I hear from different non-Anglo cultures and people in Australia is, you don't have to be fearful of coming in. I think what tends to happen is we're worried that we're going to offend or upset or step over a border or a boundary and get it wrong, and therefore we don't want to get it wrong because we don't want to risk offending, like not knowing to take off your shoes or not knowing to wear a bandana to cover the hair. We don't know that stuff, and so I think we probably are a bit more conservative about wanting to find out more. But if that's true, and I hear it all the time, we should just have a crack and lean in, and if we get it wrong, no one's going to be upset. Is that right?
That's right. And usually in our temples, they will have signposts to say, please cover your head or take your shoes off. And that's how it is. You'll see a whole heap of shoes outside the main building. There's actually shoe racks they built in, where you take your shoes off, put them, and then go inside. And there'll be a box with scarves. If you talk about Sikh temples, the Gurdwaras, that's how it is. So you're welcome. And again, if anybody wants to visit one, whichever state you're from or whichever town you're in, please reach out to me and I can probably arrange it so you feel comfortable. And I know it can be a big thing walking into a new place thinking I'm the odd one out.
Hey, so many people are feeling like that every day if they're from a different cultural background and they come to Australia. So what's good
That's
for the
right.
goose is good for the gander, right?
Yeah, well, I'm going to say you can feel like me one day and go, oh, when I walk into a room, go, I'm the only Sikh here. Well, anyway, let's put on a smile and have a crack. That's all it is.
Right. Now, folks, we've got time for a few more questions, so keep them coming. Amar, what's a normal day in the life like for you running Turbans for Australia? Is it kind of something that is same but different, or is every day pretty much you can rely on it being like X? Talk us through that.
A normal day at Turbans could be crazy in a good way, right? So from anywhere from media engagement to ordering stock to seeing what I need to send out and phone calls from our suppliers to say, hey, I've got a semi-trailer load of chips coming in. Go, okay. Then me getting on the phone, getting our other volunteers say, hey, can you ring XYZ charity? Say, we got this much coming in, because we shared our stuff that we get in. So now we're getting into a lot of the food rescue stuff. What you see here, the green and gold charity logistics is our social enterprise. So we've actually got 2 trucks now that help us transport stuff, because Australia is a big country. You know, you can donate me a Titanic, but I need a truck to move it, right? Again,
Absolutely.
so some of the places we go to are far away. Like Lismore from Sydney, it is 9 hours straight in a truck. So it's not something you can just turn around and come back straight back. So a lot of times when we get this stuff, we share it out. And again, it could be community engagements, community issues, people reaching out to within my own community, women seeking help during from domestic violence and others, so I have to guide them to other services, or just migrants saying, you know, I've got an issue with my turban or being bullied, or many people reaching out for food insecurity, because that's one thing that's really ramped up in the last couple of months with cost of living going up. So we're always getting referrals from local service providers and refugee advocacy groups to say, hey, we need more food, and that's what we get on with.
Well, it's a great segue, because Angela has actually asked a question about Turbans and what sort of donations you accept, you know, food or clothing or cash donations. And can you talk to us a bit about how people that are watching online today and getting involved, how they may also be able to get involved to support?
Thank you for that. That's a very important question. Donations are very important because that's what keeps us going. For us to afford these warehouses, we've got one here, one in Thomastown, Victoria. That's been there for the last 6 months. The one we run up in northern New South Wales for Lismore and Woodburn. It's very important that we get the donations in, because that's what helps us buy this stuff. Because my notion is simple. If I'm giving a hamper, I don't want to put 50 items in it. I'd rather put 5, but put more quantity of those 5, so a person knows I've got milk, I can be looked after for a week, instead of me putting a small case of milk and then go, I had milk 1 day a week. So that's how we look at stuff. And what do you see behind me? Those pallets, they're all palletized, probably a ton of each stuff, or, you know, probably 50 to 80 boxes. That's what enables us to buy. When I get donations in, we allocate certain funds for our purchase and go, here's what we're buying from suppliers, or people donate to us, or food bank that we buy from. Helps us a long way. So donations are very important. If you do consider to donate, please go to our website. It's we really appreciate it.
So Julie asks how she could create some awareness of your great messages, but also for the wonderful work that you're doing in community, in her local area. So what is the best way for those that are participating today to take this message out and to help promote what you're doing and to get that message out? Is there a simple way to do that?
But the simplest way now, or the easiest way, is through social media. So if you get on any of the social media platforms, find us for Turbans for Australia, and get liking our posts, share our post, or say, I heard Amar Singh speak today at an event, you know, please donate. Whatever you want to do, it's about giving us the more audience as well. Because when we reach out to people, we, like I said before, that we reach out to the locals. So if there's people that are struggling in a town and they need help, they reach out to us direct, and that's how we work. It might be your community sometimes that need help. Again, We will be expanding to WA this year. That's my plan in a big way. So I will need a lot of volunteers and a lot of help from locals. So the more I think in a way we can gather our audience through social media platforms, it's best. But again, you can share our messages, share our talks, do a PayPal donation. We have PayPal as well on our website, or share that link to say, hey, I heard this and this is how I want to support. There was a beautiful gesture done by a young lady who used to donate to us. Sadly, she passed away last year, and her family, instead of accepting flowers, chose to donate to us. And I was actually surprised. Her friends and family got us over $7,500 of donations. So this is incredible. You'll be really amazed how generous people are. And that generosity of average Australians is what keeps us going.
Yeah. Look, we've put up on the chat, for those that haven't got the chat open, the website for Turbans for Australia is www.t4a, so that's the letter T, the number 4, and the letter a.org.au, but that's in the chat. So check it out, and people can donate straight there in that environment. Is that right, Amar?
That's right. They can use PayPal, but also our website, our account numbers are listed there as well. And there's a contact us page as well. People can contact us through there, definitely.
And one more question again from the audience, and this one's from Gail. Do volunteers, can they come from any community, or are you really asking for those from the Sikh community? How broad is that volunteer base?
I think it's, to be honest, it's a unique representation of our society, of Australian society, of everyone. Gets in there, have a go, and make it work. So
anyone from any cultural background can volunteer and help with your cause. They can get behind and support you, any sort of background. Yeah,
that's pretty much right. Every Sunday where we do hampers on this store out here on my left, we have a Chinese-speaking Johnson who deals with all the older Chinese Australians that come here for help. We have Arabic-speaking people. Of course, I speak to the Indian languages, Hindi and Punjabi. We have others who might speak another language. Although Turbans for Australia was started by myself and a group of Sikhs, now it's predominantly Australian charity. Because I think at one stage I realized that if we keep our walls up and say, oh, this is just a Sikh thing, then we're not being accepting of others. So why are we expecting others to accept us? So we opened our doors, and it's only been a great blessing because we work with every country, people from every country, every background, and small towns. So it's really a broad charity that works for the community and is run by the community.
Fantastic. Well, we've got one more question, and then I think we're probably going to have to let everyone go back to the busyness of their day. This question is from Jack. And Jack asks, from your experience, how difficult is it to start a charity or a community service? And do you have any tips or keys to success that you can share?
Well, I think certainly it might be a cliche, but hard work is the success. You really got to roll your sleeves up and get in there. Sometimes I got to push the bin out by myself. It's a pretty big cardboard bin we have here because all the packaging, unpacking we do, but that's what it is. It comes with the thing. When you do it with your passion, you can make it grow. And again, start from small things. So if you're passionate about food relief or the environment or helping women or kids or anything, get involved in a charity that's already doing the work so you can see how it runs and start from a small scale. Look, nothing was built in a day. Even this place, if you had asked me 4 years ago, Amar, are you going to have warehouses across 2 states? I would say, no, I have no plans, but now here I am. If you asked me if I was going to be Australian of the Year, I wouldn't have no clue, so over the moon being a finalist in New South Wales. But again, I think if you put your head down, work hard in any profession, any field, you will excel. And the Almighty, will shower his blessings on you. And that's how it works. And the people's blessings, that's what I count on. So absolute love that we get from our people.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who's received an Australian of the Year award and they set out to win an Australian of the Year award. I think everyone that ever says, I never set out, it's true. I think people do what they do because they do what they do. So,
but I think one of my key messages, is to everyone should go out and volunteer. in their community, be it a local Bunnings barbecue, help the local Lions and Rotaries, even a small team, because you'll get a sense of relief and excitement, something you can't put a dollar value on, but end of the day, when you think about your day, it's going to be, I've actually done something good for the society today. I've made somebody smile. That's all that matters.
You get a taste, right?
Yeah, pretty
So
much.
one more question, and this is a really important one, and you've probably thought about it since you've been named Australia's local hero. What are your plans to expand, to scale up? How are you going to go about it? What's next for you?
That's a scary question, because like I said, I was just there to party and enjoy a couple of days in Canberra with wonderful Australians. I had no clue I was going to win. I was just laid back, and then win and go, oh my God, what happened to me? But again, I think this is something we've done in the background, expanding into Victoria already and into Woodburn, taking on that hub, and in Lismore originally. So expansion was part of the package, but I think now having this award and having the support from the government and departments and the states, it will hopefully make it easier. And it's also what we need to do for our community. So our warehouses are not going to be just packing food. They're also going to be help people, address food insecurity, offer a community space for people, and rescue food that's going to landfill. Like as I mentioned, those chips at the back of me, that was a semi-trailer load that was destined for landfill. It's still good. It's got a couple of months of best before date, but if they can't sell it, because most of the major shopping retailers won't take the things unless they have 6 to 12 months, because they have to put it through their supply chain. So that's where we come in. We rescue the stuff in bulk and then hand it out to other charities, and then we use for our own. Again, that's the way to grow. We're helping the planet, helping the community, because it's all about putting food on the table for people. And having our own trucks, it's just an added bonus to be able to store, transport, and provide the service directly to people.
Well, I think you're going to have a very busy year. I'm so appreciative, and I know everyone that's been joining us online today has been so appreciative for the time that you've spent and answering all those questions. There's lots of comments in the chat. You can go back and have a look at when we wrap up. On behalf of all of us, thank you so much. We are just so grateful for the time that you've spent with us today. We do appreciate you. Do also need to go back to doing what you do best. And for everyone at home, just remember, if you do want to find out more about Amar's work or to support Turbans for Australia, you can jump online and visit t4a.org.au. It's in the chat, so check it out. So thank you so much. I'm just going to thank a couple of other people, and then we're going to let everyone go. This Inspiring Australians Lunch with Leaders series is just one of the many events and initiatives that Auspire curates and delivers throughout the year with Australian of the Year alumni. And I'm sure we'll end up doing another one with you at some point in the next few months before the end of your time. But we work with individuals and schools and local communities to promote cultural diversity and inclusion and leadership in active citizenship, exactly what we've been doing today. But we also do some more formal training and workshops and community forums. So if you are encouraged at all to have a look at the full sort of suite of what we do at Auspire, then we would be really thrilled to see you also on our website, taking a look and see how we can work possibly with you or your community. We do want to take also the opportunity to encourage you all to look around your networks and identify those who inspire you through the work they do, because one nomination is all it takes, and Amar is a perfect example of that. Find that community champion and nominate them for the 2024 Australian of the Year Award. Because nominations are open now, and you can nominate online at australianoftheyear.org.au. Now, in closing, I do also want to acknowledge that the Local Hero category in Australian of the Year Awards is celebrating 20 years this year, and the Local Hero category partner is the Department of Home Affairs, who also do a wonderful job with Harmony Week, encouraging all of us to embrace our cultural differences and draw on our cultural strengths, as they have been so wonderfully demonstrated with this session with Amar today. I do also again acknowledge our Australian of the Year National Diversity and Inclusion Partner, Chevron Australia. Thank you so much for your support, and particularly for your support in Western Australia. Amar, to you, not only for your passion, but your unwavering sense of purpose. And thank you again to the audience for joining us online today. Do keep an eye out for our upcoming online and in-person events. We are really looking forward to hosting sometime in the next couple of months Australian of the Year, Karen Brumfitt. We have her coming out to Western Australia, and we will keep you all posted on when that's all happening. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. We really look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great afternoon.